Hello, everybody, and welcome to the online lectures for meaningful tourism as a sustainable development tool for tourism in Africa. My name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Alt. I'm the founder and executive director of the Meaningful Tourism Center, based in London and in Kathmandu, Nepal. Let me start by giving a brief introduction on what we have planned to do in this online lecture series for you. Let me start the presentation, just a second. What will we do in this online lecture series for African countries will be the following. So in the first week of December, we have 5 lectures about 5 African countries, starting with South Africa, and then Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. Actually, the next year there will be more African countries also following up. And then on December 9, 16, and 33, we will have once a week another lecture where we will look for the African continent more specifically on what is the meaningful tourism approach, what are the tools, what are the key performance indicators, and in the next week we will talk about how to apply this practically in tourism, what are specifics about soft markets, and also we will have a special topic, carbon credits trading for Africa, which in the first lecture today we will have only briefly. And finally, we will look in the last lecture at the step-by-step implementation of the ecotourism for African destinations, companies, and organizations. And of course, we will have a conclusion and outlook. So in the first lecture today, I have the pleasure and the honor to start in a minute with an introduction about what is meaningful tourism. And then we have our certified trainer from the Meaningful Tourism Center for each of the countries, talking about how can meaningful tourism help to develop sustainable tourism in my country. So that will be South Africa, Kenya, and so on. And then we have a local expert joining us, talking about the current situation and activities for sustainable tourism and for capacity building already existing in this country, and some special aspects depending on the expertise of the local expert. And then we have Mr. Vinod Vasudevan from AOR Company, and he will give a good example of how you earn money from sustainable behavior by using carbon credit trading. I also find this an important topic. And at the end, very important also, we have a live question and answer session. So if you have any questions coming up to your mind in the next 45 minutes or so, please bear them in mind, or you can also use the chat function, of course. And at the end, there will be a Q&A where we will try to answer your questions as they are arising. Thank you already very much for participating in that part. And also, just to mention that everybody who has registered to participate in this online lecture series is invited for free. So this is sponsored by us, the Meaningful Tourism Center, and by the Tourism Institute. And so there's no payment necessary. However, if you want to have a participation certificate signed by the leaders of the Meaningful Tourism Center and Tourism Institute, this is available, but for that, we will have to ask you a payment of $30 that will be done after the lecture series. And also, we have a special bonus for you. Everybody participating in the Meaningful Tourism Online Lectures Africa will receive automatically free access to the Meaningful Tourism Weekly, our publication every week telling you about meaningful tourism development. If for some reason you don't want to receive this anymore. Really, you can tell us what the plans are. Very briefly talking about who's talking to you. So my name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Alt, and I've been working in tourism since many years, since the 1980s. And as you can see in this list, I have been working a lot with the Chinese market, but also I've been working for more than 15 years now in different African countries, talking about sustainable growth development and about different source markets. And so for us here, very important is that in 2021, during the pandemic, I started the Meaningful Tourism Center to support the concept of meaningful tourism development. That is what we will talk about in our lectures here. And also, at the moment, if you want to know, I am based in Kathmandu, in Nepal. So I moved here last year, and the Meaningful Tourism Center came obviously with me. Other than that, well, you can see that I've been working a lot internationally and having a lot of hats, including a fellowship of the Royal Geographic Society and the Royal Asiatic Society, but also membership in a couple of international tourism organizations. So that is what I wanted to tell you for the moment. And now let's enjoy the online lectures, and let's not forget Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future. Thank you, and let's start the presentations. Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Meaningful Tourism as a tool for development, sustainable tourism for Africa. And let me start by talking about what is meaningful tourism. So meaningful tourism is a paradigm which defines basically the 6 main stakeholders in tourism and hospitality, and say that all 6 need to receive objective benefits and subjective satisfaction. So jobs, income, regional development, but also happiness about encounters with visitors. And so that this is necessary to support the sustainable development of destinations, companies, and organizations, to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and to provide good travel experiences to the travelers as one of the 6 stakeholders, but not only for them. So let's have a look where we are now. So international tourism obviously is at a crossroad. So we see that climate change is destroying many business models which were successful in the past. We see AI is changing tourism in more ways than even the internet did in the past. And also we see that customers' demand is changing from sightseeing and recreation to transformative experiences and special interest. So what are the results? The results are that we see that more and more people are asking for quality and not just quantity. Mass market package stores are out and individual travel is in. Tour operators are starting to be replaced by AI-powered personal assistant apps. So the traditional distribution channels are disappearing, which means there are many chances for African destinations and companies to avoid the mistakes which have been done by others before and adopt to the current and future development right away. And obviously, the result is that there's a need for a holistic approach to tourism, tackling not just one problem, but looking at the whole picture. So we can see we had 50 years up to the pandemic of growth in tourism. So based in many ways also on the development of affordable air transport and making it affordable for more people, even the middle classes, to fly long distance. And that was based on the idea that tourism is about recreation, resting, and sightseeing, and was mostly organized in packaged goods. And for Africa, that was after independence one of the easiest and ways to start earning some hard currency by making use of the nature in the form of safaris or beaches to attract international visitors. So we had a year of growth, and if you look at this graph, which you probably have been seen before, so Africa, the blue one on top, came out of almost nothing in the 1980s to having a share, even so still a small one, but a growing one. And totally, we see that we reached almost 1.5 billion trips before the pandemic. And at one result, you can see the right-hand side, it's a picture of Barcelona. So the main pedestrian area was completely taken over by tourism. So where did this end? Well, it ended with the pandemic, but before already, we saw that there were big debates about over-tourism, local people getting fed up with tourism development, and also ecological discussions that you have to be ashamed to use an aircraft because you are contributing to global warming, you're contributing to pollution. And so we saw during the pandemic a lot of discussions and debates going on, and everybody was agreeing that using just arrival numbers, just how many people are coming as a key performance indicator is not working, that you have to have a more differentiated approach. And also we saw that as one of the results of the pandemic, the demands are changing. So people are less interested in recreation and shopping and sightseeing. They want more involvement and experience. And they want actually transformation instead of just memory creation. So they want to get something out of the trip, which will make them a fuller personality, having a better and more complex idea of what is the world and what who are they themselves. So this is called the transformation economy. You may remember there was a very famous book of Pine and Gilmore about the experience economy, and this has now been updated by the author Pine, talking now about the transformation economy. This is where we are moving to. So why do we need meaningful tourism? So the climate breakdown will dominate the development in the coming decades. So there's no doubt about this. And so many once successful business models will be destroyed. We see all the new technology coming, which provide a lot of new opportunities, but also many challenges. And as we just said, so the demand is developing from relaxation, sightseeing, and experiences to customized transformational experiences. And of course, Africa is very well posed to provide this kind of experiences, especially for non-African visitors. So in a nutshell, meaningful tourism is not a nice to have idea, but it's a set of practical tools which are necessary for the survival and the future development of destinations, organizations, and companies in this changing surroundings. So, and the key point is that, so this is a holistic approach. So it's based on the idea that all stakeholders need to have benefits and satisfaction. And so who are the 6 main stakeholders? Obviously the travelers, the host communities, the tourism employees, often forgotten in discussions about sustainable or responsible or recreational tourism. Then also the service providing companies, they have to earn money for future investment, the governments on different levels, and the local and global environment. So this holistic approach, looking at all the stakeholders' interest, is made into a practical tool by using KPIs. So what you cannot measure, you cannot manage, is an old saying. So these are smart KPIs, it means that they are not talking about what will happen in 50 years or so, but something which you can measure and annually or even more often and see, are you developing in the right direction? And also meaning control is not just looking at the time when people are traveling. So we have something called meaningful travel, which is concentrating on the experiences of the travelers, because actually tourism is a whole production chain. So from financing, from hotel construction to waste management. So in all these steps, we need to have a clear point of what are the interests of all stakeholders. So it is a step inside sustainable tourism development, and is based on principles of positive typology and on the Schumpeter approach of creative destruction. Actually, this idea just won a Nobel Prize in economy. So some modern ideas using Schumpeter as a base so that you actively embrace change and not just reluctantly follow it. So meaningful tourism offers a tool to analyze the situation, to mitigate contradictions and align interests, develop a strategy, and then to monitor the progress with smart KPIs. You can also compare this with other destinations, other companies. We are producing a meaningful tourism index for that. And of course, it can be and should be integrated into capacity building and education, both academic and vocational. And it can also help the discourse and discussion about, is tourism beneficial for our country, for our destination, for our society. So this is a rather new idea that has been developed by me since 5 years. And in 2021, we established the Meaningful Tourism Center. And 2022, we started the Meaningful Tourism Award, which, by the way, is also happening again this year. So please nominate everybody who you think, or every organization and company you think should get a Meaningful Tourism Award until the end of December. Some books and articles have been published about the idea, and in April this year, PATA, the Pacific Asia Tourism Association, approved this concept as their official vision statement. And so we have been this year organizing a lot of conferences and forums and fairs, all connected to the tourism. The key element of our work is that we have about 50 trainers in different countries, and you can see there are also many African countries, and each of our online lectures is based on the work of one of our local trainers in Africa. So they are there on the ground and with the local knowledge to help to have this kind of development. And as I said, PATA has said for the Asia Pacific region, this is the official vision to develop a meaningful Pacific Asia tourism economy. Hopefully, we can reach the same for Africa as well. So meaningful tourism means not looking for compromises, and I think this is a big mistake in a lot of discussions, but you need to align interests. Compromises are, nobody is ever satisfied, and also a balancing act, and balances, can crash easily. So what we need is to align interest of the stakeholders. And this you can use, or you can achieve by active embracement of change. So we mentioned Schumpeter before. And of course, Africa can have the advantage that you have less rigid structures compared to other destinations. So it might be easier to embrace new ideas. Because Africa is, of course, also the youngest of all continents, so you have so many bright young people who are willing to do something innovative and something new. This is a good opportunity. I've been working a lot with China, and I could see how this has helped. And the decades ago, development in China, and China was still a young society. And also it means, of course, the integration of the interests of the local host population. So we saw all this overturn protest that they feel that they are suffering, that their nature and culture is destroyed for short-term profits. There have been a lot of debates also recently about such activities stopping the movement of animals and many other problems. And of course, meaningful tourism offer means the provision of better training and better working conditions for the employees in tourism and hospitality. So because we need to attract motivated, high quality staff offering good service, that is the key point. And this is something where we see that after the pandemic in many countries, there's a lack of staff now because the working conditions in tourism have not been ideal in many places in the past. So we need obviously restrictions and control of the ecological impact of increased tourism, but also we need not just regulations, we need to educate the locals and the visitors about the local ecosystems and how to protect them. If the visitors feel not just as somebody bringing some dollars, but somebody who is welcomed, then they have also more interest in protecting the area where they are visiting. So we can align the interests of economic development and environmental protection, and they are actually not opposites, because in the long term, we are using natural and cultural resources to generate jobs and income, and so to keep them alive, not killing what we are selling, is in the interest of both economic development and profit and environmental protection. So that means we can use a strategy based on the meaningful tourism principles of providing benefits and satisfaction to all stakeholders to avoid a development in Africa of short-term profit and long-term destruction, as we have seen, unfortunately, in many other places in the world happening. So this is an overview of what is meaningful tourism, and we will talk more about what does it mean specifically for different destinations in the rest of the lectures. Just briefly say, so who is the Meaningful Tourism Center? Well, it's a non-profit organization based in London with headquarters in Kathmandu, and I'm proud to say partners and trainers around the world, including many countries in Africa. So we provide research, training, consulting services for companies, organizations, and institutions globally, and of course also in Africa. And myself, I'm having called now one for Prof M. I'm from Meaningful, and I've been working in tourism for almost 15 years as a consultant, a trainer, a publisher, event organizer, and also as a university professor. And so we offer together with our local trainers a full range of services for destinations, companies, and organizations. So the entry level is that based on a self-assessment for individual companies, which is very easy to do based on smart KPIs we provide, so that these companies or organizations or destinations can become recognized as part of their meaningful tourism movement. We have as a key element meaningful tourism transformative game workshops and source market workshops, which are full day offline workshops. So this is where the local trainers are providing the services on the spot and if necessary also in local language. And this is based on role play, so it's a very innovative and productive way of seeing how can specifically for a specific company or destination developments pushed forward. And there's of course implementation support, so from just developing customized KPIs to the workshops to a full implementation support package, all customized specifically for the situation in Africa, all offered for you. So please feel free to contact the local trainers or us at the Meaningful Tourism Center, and we will be very happy to make this also something which is happening in your place and for your company. So as we said at the beginning, Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future, and let me add, Meaningful Tourism is a tool for sustainable and profitable success. With that, thank you very much for your attention, and we will move forward in our online lecture. If you have any interest in contacting us, so please feel free to contact us, either our local trainers or the center on WhatsApp or email. We have just updated our website, and we have the Meaningful Tourism weekly newsletter you will all receive because you have participated in this online workshop. Thank you so much, and now let's move forward in the program.
Hi everyone, my name is Bridget Morugi. I'm the local trainer, MTC, and director, EcoPath Adventures. EcoPath Adventures is a tour company based in Kenya, which is curating sustainable tourism adventures. So I'll be taking you through a short session on the importance of meaningful tourism in Kenya. To begin with, I'm going to briefly explain the tourism status or the situation of tourism in Kenya right now. So as we all know, Kenya is a top African destination famous for wildlife, culture, and scenic beauty. The industry has shown strong recovery and steady growth in recent years. So the visitors' arrivals have increased significantly, with both international and domestic travel driving the rebound. So Kenya's diverse offerings from the Samburu, Masai Mara, Amboseli, and the coastal destinations like Diani and Lamu are the main key attractions. The development of new air route, improved structure, the digital marketing initiative by the Kenya Tourism Board have also boosted accessibility and visibility in global markets. So what are some of the challenges that tourism is facing in Kenya? One key challenge is balancing tourism growth and with conservation and community benefit. While tourism supports jobs and the economy, it can also strain ecosystem and cultural sites. Another issue is uneven distribution. Popular destinations like Masai Mara attract more visitors, while other regions like Meru National Park remain underpromoted. So currently, Kenya is addressing this through diversification, capacity building, and promoting community-based tourism models to ensure both people and planet benefit. Now, coming to MTC, how can MTC tools help for a sustainable development of tourism in Kenya? The Meaningful Tourism tools offer structured ways to measure impact and readiness, such as self-assessment and the transformational game workshops. This can help Kenya destinations evaluate where they stand on inclusivity, environmental management, and also visitor experience. So using these tools alongside Kenya's existing sustainability framework can help destinations and tour companies like EcoPath Adventures identify practical actions to improve. We move next to how the MTZ is fitting into existing government plans. So Kenya's National Tourism Strategy 2030 envisions the country as a globally competitive and sustainable tourism destination. This vision is anchored in key priorities such as regional development, inclusive growth, product diversification, and capacity building. Meaningful tourism tools align seamlessly with these goals. by offering practical frameworks and that empower local stakeholders to assess, adapt, and innovate through structured training programs, self-assessment, recognition, and transformational workshops. These tools help build professionalism and resilience across the tourism value chain. As I conclude, I invite partners, trainers, and stakeholders to collaborate in transforming Kenya's tourism narrative. By embracing meaningful tourism tools and aligning with national strategies, we can build inclusive tourism ecosystems that empower communities, protect natural heritage, and deliver exceptional experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor to speak to you
Hello.
today about the strides Kenya is making in sustainable tourism development, the collective efforts underway to strengthen capacity across the tourism sector, as well as the challenges that still require our committed attention. My name is Angela Njihia, Ecotourism Kenya chairperson, as well as a board member of the Kenya Tourism Federation, and the co-founder of Teranjani Africa, a boutique sustainable tourism firm that is based in Nairobi but operates across Africa. So, tourism remains one of Kenya's most powerful engines for economic growth, community empowerment, and conservation. And today, more than ever, we recognize that the strength of our tourism sector heavily depends on its sustainability and on our ability to ensure that people, nature, and prosperity grow together. Kenya has placed sustainability at the center of its tourism agenda, with us putting forth our national tourism strategy for the next 5 years, which firmly positions sustainability as a core component of the country's tourism future. This strategy calls for a sector that is environmentally responsible, socially inclusive, economically resilient, and aligned with the principles of regenerative tourism development. This national vision is already being put into practice across the country, and one of the most impactful contributions really comes from the organization Ecotourism Kenya, which I said I'm a chairperson of, because Ecotourism Kenya continues to champion sustainable, responsible, and inclusive tourism solutions. Ecotourism Kenya's flagship eco-rating certification framework has set the standard for environmental and social best practices within Kenya's tourism industry. And what is particularly significant is that this certification has expanded beyond the safari lodges and conservancies to now include city-based hotels and urban tourism facilities. This shift is really essential, especially as Kenya sets its sights on growing the MICE sector. It also ensures that sustainability principles are embedded, and not just on text, but also embedded in our wilderness tourism, but across the full spectrum of our visitor economy. We're also witnessing a positive transformation through new and emerging tourism innovation hubs. A good example would be an organization I work closely with, Purple Elephant Ventures, which is driving regenerative tourism solutions through entrepreneurship, climate innovation, and technology. So this kind of investments is helping position Kenya as a thought leader in meaningful and regenerative tourism, not just within Africa, but globally. So, alongside policy progress, Kenya is investing deeply in skills development, local empowerment, and institutional strengthening across the tourism sector. We have seen different development partners put up projects that are strengthening the sector's, tourism circuits. One example of this kind of work comes from, say, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, where through its Market System Development Program, they are now working in 3 tourism-centric counties, Kajiado, Narok, and Nakuru, where they're supporting a more inclusive and competitive tourism ecosystem. The program focuses on strengthening tourism value chains, improving workforce skills, and enhancing market access for local entrepreneurs, especially those that are led by women and youth. Now, by engaging the broader tourism system rather than isolated actors, what this does, it helps build counties that are better prepared to benefit from tourism, create decent employment, and also sustain local economic growth. We've seen this in different parts of the country. For example, recently we just did the first public-private dialogue through a program, or rather a project by GIZ and Twicare Foundation, also known as the WE4D, or Women in Employment for Development initiative. And here it's also looking at creating an avenue, a base, a foundation of, a catalyst rather, of growing green jobs within the tourism sector. So you find this kind of capacities develop alternatives to the current mainstream tourism as we've always known it, but now it starts to truly have that, what we are calling meaningful impact. So we've also equally seen associations such as Kenya Association of Women in Tourism continue to champion gender responsiveness, fair human rights practices, and women's empowerment across the tourism value chain. You know, this kind of advocacy helps us ensure that tourism workplaces uphold dignity, fairness, and equal opportunity, principles that are central to truly being a sustainable, inclusive destination. So, if we now look at beyond the progress, we know despite the remarkable process being made, we must acknowledge the challenges that continue to hinder our transition to fully, or to being, a fully inclusive, sustainable tourism destination. So one of those things is that we still face uneven benefit distribution of benefits, with many rural and marginalized communities receiving only a small share of the tourism revenues. Further, we continue to grapple with skills gaps, and you can see now projects such as what ILO is doing, GIZ, and many others, is looking at how do we bridge these gaps from within the hospitality sector, within the tourism wider sector, managing, growing the digital competencies and, sustainability skills, to now being, professional, well-run skills, or other skills being applied within the workplaces. We also are still seeing challenges with our natural ecosystems. I think that's a no-brainer, whether it's the Mara, the Seli, Savo, the coastal and marine regions, they still remain vulnerable to climate change, habitat degradation, and increasing resource pressure. There are also governance challenges, and these include weak coordination between county and national governments, because Kenya does work with a devolved system of running when it comes to governance. So then, because we are now devolving some of the functions, you find there's some still remain in the national government, others within the county government. So there's challenges, in regulatory enforcement, that there's also limited financing for small community tourism enterprises, So we must also confront persistent gender inequalities, because these undermine the inclusive vision of sustainable tourism. So these challenges remind us that sustainability is not an endpoint in any way, but a continuous journey, one that requires shared responsibility and long-term commitment. Everybody must say, I must take up my responsibility for this whole thing to work. So moving forward, we really are looking at the work happening across Kenya, demonstrates that we are in the right direction. Government, development partners, communities, private sector actors, civil society organizations, all are playing, working towards, vital roles in shaping a tourism sector that is inclusive, regenerative, and truly meaningful. So Kenya has all the ingredients, we have all the spices needed to become a global model for sustainable tourism, rich in cultural heritage, iconic biodiversity, innovative entrepreneurs, committed development partners, and strong community conservation structures. So what remains is to continue strengthening these partnerships, building local capacities, and aligning all the actors towards a shared vision of sustainability. So tourism in Kenya is not just an economic activity, it is a powerful tool for conservation, cultural pride, community resilience, and really even national development. It is the number 2 sector annual foreign exchange for the country. So if we continue investing in people, protecting and, we invest in people, protecting our natural heritage, and embrace innovative and inclusive solutions, we will definitely secure a tourism sector that benefits not just today's generation, but generations to come. And this is the shared goal. Thank you very much for listening to me. I truly appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and share some insights. As we say it in Kenya, asante sana.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so Sveta, if you can stop sharing the screen, please. And okay, maybe I mean, can you turn off your camera for a moment?
Nobody is
you.
sharing any screen, so please.
Okay, so thank you very much for the your interest in what we had to tell about meaningful tourism and meaningful tourism in Kenya. And so at the last part, I'm sorry there was no comment. We have repaired this in the meantime, so we will have more presentations the rest of the week, and then we will have this with comment. But just let me explain that this is one of the ways how to very simply earn money from being sustainable. And this was an example of hotels, but of course it can also be for other companies, for national parks, for bigger museums, and so on. And we are working together with this company, Aroy, which is based actually in with the biggest office in Bangalore. So, but we still have a little bit of time to uh, ask you to give some comments or questions. And maybe I can start by saying that we had one question already in the chat. So, what about the possibilities for students to work in this field? And so this is something we have already discussed with Brigitte, that we have a program which is called Learning by Traveling, where we offer for tourism students, hospitality students, regional development students, and others to go to countries and do a field trip, a transformational, meaningful tourism field trip there. And Kenya is one of the countries where, with the help of Brigitte Murugi, we are planning also to organize such trips. So if you're in Kenya and interested to offer such cooperation with local communities for development projects, so where the students can learn something, but also the students can do a little bit of support in a maybe 1 week stay in a community to develop some ideas or give some practical help with the development of meaningful tourism for that place. So, and of course, also as a meaningful tourism center. So I've been a professor for many years. If you are interested as a student in Africa, especially in Kenya, to work on meaningful tourism in your studies, maybe write your thesis about this. Of course, we are also happy to support such activities. Just contact us at the Meaningful Tourism Center. So email us info@meaningfultourismcenter.org, or you can also contact, of course, if you're in Kenya, Brigitte. So that is one thing where clearly we see that when we say the future is Africa, so the young people of Kenya and of Africa are, of course, those who are this future. And if we can support them, that is certainly something we're happy to do. So that is hopefully an answer to that question. And so if there's any other question, please unmute yourself and ask. So if you want, go ahead. And so there's a Tyson Lekagwar is asking in the chat. So Brigitte, I don't know, do you want to answer that? Because I'm sure you know more about the Maasai than I do. So the question is by Tyson, I'm from the marginalized community, the mostly mentioned around the Maa, so Maasai, Samburu, Rendile, and I have an idea of a sustainable project. Could it be possible to get the support for this to become reality? I'm a fourth-year student in Jaramogi Oginda University. So yes, so Brigitte, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. I can just try to understand Tyson. So, hi, Tyson. maybe we could request to know more about the project, what it entails, and what level you are, and what type of support would you like us to help? Because we are ready to maybe have a talk with you, discuss, and see ways that you can partner.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it is, of course, this is a very good example of where we are seeing where we can do something. So I think, yes, just please contact us and we can talk about this more afterwards and see what we can do together. So there's another question by Abby Moraga. Do you have some specific cases of the application of the Meaningful Tourism Framework in urban tourism contexts? Thank you very much for this question. So what I can say is, indeed, when we talk about meaningful tourism and when we talk about Africa, so we are making a point to say in all our activities that Africa is not just safari and beach, and also Angela, Neya, and of course Brigitte have also mentioning that obviously Africa is also urban tourism, and that there are I've been in Nairobi myself, and I've been in Johannesburg and some other cities. And of course, meaningful tourism is also important for urban tourism. So the biggest discussions about over tourism, where the local people are not happy anymore with too many tourists, are in cities like Barcelona, Venice, are almost the most famous examples. So therefore, yes, it is also important that in an urban environment you are including also the host community in the benefits and satisfaction, in helping them to understand what are the benefits of tourism in their city. That's why we are using KPIs, key performance indicators, so to make this transparent. What is also the benefit? So that is rather the easy part. We, of course, tourists bring taxes and help the government to earn money and the companies to create jobs. But when it comes to satisfaction, that is, of course, a point where it's a point of communication to tell people that, well, you can be proud of the fact that somebody is coming to your city and spending time and money to learn more about you, and especially if this is not tourism where you just sit in a bus and take a photo, but where you interact. And this is what I tried to say earlier. That is what now more and more tourists are looking for, not just take a photo, but talk to people, learn from people, interact with people. And then that becomes something where also for local people they feel respected, they feel that their experiences and their culture and their food and their music and everything is taken serious and is getting interest. Then there will also be the satisfaction sector bigger than just saying, oh, these guys are pushing up prices and creating traffic jam. So as you hear very often. So that is certainly what is an important part. And Africa. So this is also where we see in this discussion of sustainability, sometimes from the Western point of view, this is a bit of a romantic idea, so that the people living in a small village in a traditional situation, and this is what like a museum. But of course, if you start people to ask, okay, do we want to have a tradition where the women have no right? Do we want to have a tradition where there's no dentist? So then very quickly people say, no, maybe not that tradition. So that is something where clearly we are talking about tourism in 2025 and in the future. We are not talking about some romantic idea of some noble savage, basically colonial ideas. So that is what I would say. Brigitte, do we want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I want to believe when Abby mentioned about urban tourism contexts, she is like trying to describe a city tours and maybe generally the city life experience, which still is an additional to the meaningful tourism framework, because urban tourism, also community-based tourism, it's all the same thing, you know. If you want to go to the locals, you pass through the urban, you know. If you want to tour Kenya, you start from Nairobi. So yeah, it does relate, and it's applicable to the MTC as well.
Yes, and also I think there are, from my experience, of course, so many creative young people starting their own companies, doing their own in IT, in design, in arts. So this is interesting also for urban young people from other countries. So I've been working a lot with China, and certainly in China they have a lot of startup companies, and they will be very interested to learn. Okay, how do you do a startup company in Nairobi, and how maybe we can learn from each other, even work together. So that is something. There is so much new art and music coming from African cities, which is very interesting. So I think this is what we try to do, what we try to support. So to get Africa out of this idea, this is some zebras and some Maasai jumping up and down, and that is Africa. When in fact, of course, it is a quickly developing young continent with a lot of things happening there. So I think this is something we are also trying. So next year we will produce we will organize a stand at two fairs in China. One is the GITF, the Guangzhou International Travel Fair. The other is the BITLF, the Beijing International Tourism and Lifestyle Fair, where we will build a Africa hub where we tried exactly to bring together modern offers and destinations who offer well, still safari and the beach is nice, but also offer the other many things which you can do in Africa, what people are interested in. And so we are trying also to bring this to source markets, and of course for many African countries, China is a very important source market, and also something where you can attract people really interested in African culture and African business, not just people coming there to take some photos of some animals. So Tyson, so you asked if you can explain this further. So while looking at the time, we are already a bit over our time, but yes. So if you can give us a brief introduction of what you are thinking about the sustainable project you want to do in your region. Tyson, go ahead. Oh, I can't hear him.
Well, okay. So I see also somebody raising hand as can Hindi.
Yes. So it's Kahindi, so maybe you go ahead then, please.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, speak up, please.
Sami Kahindi. I'm from Kenya. I work with the Tourism Regulatory Authority, but I'm here in the capacity of a master's student pursuing responsible tourism management. I have a few questions. Number one, who's this meaningful tourism tool? Who is it meant for in particular from the list of stakeholders that have been listed from the beginning of the presentation? Number two, looking at most of the tourism establishments, most of them are foreign owned, and that sometimes leads to what we call economic leakage, because a bigger chunk or a bigger portion of the proceeds of the tourist spending goes back to the source market or to the companies that are from the source market. So how is this meaningful tourism framework or the tool, how will it ensure that this does not happen and that all the stakeholders will get equal benefits from this whole tourism framework? Thank you so much.
Yes, Oskari, thank you very much. This is a very to the point questions. I think you really go directly to the core of what we are talking about. Thank you very much for that. So I can give obviously just a brief answer to that. But so the first one is the very idea of meaningful tourism paradigm is that you have to have a holistic approach where all stakeholders have benefits and satisfactions. So that, and it's a very normal idea. If you have a family, if you want to have a happy family, the wife has to be happy, the husband has to be happy, the children have to be happy, the neighbors have to be happy, the mother-in-law has to be happy. If one of them is feeling treated badly or not getting a fair share, then the whole atmosphere for the whole group will be bad. So this is something which I think is not rocket science. But in tourism, we have for a long time, and even now, even in the debates about sustainability, we have always concentrated to say one of the stakeholders has to be given precedence. So, of course, we have to take care of the environment, or the host communities have the right to their own place. The companies have to make money. We need profit. The customer is king, so it's all important what the customers want. And while we can see that in the tourism, we have a lot of problems now, and a lot of people are not happy anymore with tourism. And that's why the answer is clearly develop key performance indicators and do actions where all stakeholders can see that they have their fair share, that including, for instance, also the employees working in the companies, which have been in most of the sustainability discussions, they were very seldom talked about. And now we see that in many parts of the world, there is a lack of staff because the people in the pandemic learned that there can also be other jobs where they earn the same amount of money for a regular Monday, Friday, 9 to 5 job. So to develop sustainable tourism, which means also year-round tourism, which means then year-round jobs for the employees, is another important point. And the second question you had, of course, leakage is for many years a big point of discussion. And so these foreign companies, well, what do they own? Normally they own hotels and they own maybe safari lodges and stuff. So if we can together develop other tourism products, as Brigitte has and Angela have already mentioned, where people go not just there for safari and beach, but where they go really to different parts of the country, depending on their different interests, and that can be culture, health, big topic. That can be nature. People who want to do bird watching or other stuff. So then you will have the possibility that you have community-based tourism where the locals are stakeholders and co-owners of what is happening and earning also the majority of the money. So if you sell local food, then this local food will be done with local ingredients, then the money stays in the economy. If you sell frozen pizza or cheeseburgers and Budweiser beer and Johnny Walker whiskey, then the money goes out of the country. So that is clearly the point that leakage is happening in these big structures of traditional recreation. But we see that a good part of the source market interest, especially of the more affluent and more educated people who are able and willing to spend more time and more money if they give the right offer, that they can make sure that for such kind of offers, the biggest part of the money stays within the country and is not going away to Europe or to North America. Again, Brigitte, if you want to add something, and then I'm afraid we have to finish. We are already quite over time. But Brigitte, so I give the last word to you. And Skadi, thank you for your thumbs up. And if you want, let's continue this discussion. I'm sure that I can see already from your questions that you are somebody who knows a lot about the development, and let's keep up the communication. Brigitte, last word for you.
Okay, so I don't know if Tyson is still able to unmute, but maybe to comment on the
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
yes,
so
Tyson,
Yeah.
please.
2 minutes.
So all right, all right. So my name is Tyson, and I'm a student from Jaramogi, as I said earlier, and I'm from marginalized community. I'm from Samburu, in the northern part of Kenya, and I'm a keen student in terms of sustainability. I've attended many in ecotourism, Kenya, and many others. So let me first ask this question to Brigid about these cultural dances and beards. Is it empowerment or is it survival? So that connects it to a project I have, that tourism is more than just beards and cultural dances. So it focuses on how we can empower this community and not just seeing them as a cheap commodities for this culture and then dances and beards and things like that. Thank you.
Okay, so Tyson, you asked if it's survival or is it a cultural experience? And that's how narrow it down to. It all depends on how it comes to be. Like, is this an organized group whereby the women come together and decide to offer this as an experience? Or do they have someone? Because most of these ladies in the locals, they normally operate under a bracket whereby they have maybe an international organization which they work under. So if we want to eliminate the survival bit for them, we have to do it like directly to them. Make sure that they directly have the benefit, you know. So it all depends on how the setup is done. How are they performing? What are the channels? Who is the leader? You know, did they get involved? Are they consulted on maybe how they expect to benefit from whatever experience that they are offering? So that brings the need for us to have a discussion and see how do they do their thing? How can we differentiate ourselves? How can we ensure that whatever they are doing, they get to benefit? And they're not just doing it for survival, they're doing it to maybe benefit themselves and have impact to the general community. Okay, so I think on the other question for Skahindi on the us having people from the outside invest in Kenya. For example, myself, I'm a tour operator in Kenya, a locally based tour operator. So if you come asking the question of does whatever meaningful tourism offering, does it benefit us? Well, for me, I would say it benefits me as a local operator and as someone who is doing this for the community, not just generally for making the profit as most of people will do. Because we have seen people coming into Kenya, starting their businesses, and whatever revenue they get, it's kind of a way get to the leakage. That's where it comes in. So we still have the local operators who are offering this with the having the locals in mind. And I think those are the people that as community, as a country, we need to empower first. But again, I think we still need to have a discussion on that since we know how things works here, you know?
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Brigitte. Yes, I fully agree with that. And well, fortunately, there are good examples around the world, and this is what we also do in our full day training, that we give best practice examples where you can see how both in the countryside and in the cities you can create such policies, such strategies, such business where it is providing benefits and satisfactions for all involved. And so clearly, the more you give empowerment to local people and the more you give value to the local culture, to the local traditions, to the local nature, the bigger is the chance that you can keep this under your own control, both what is offered and where the money goes afterwards. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. So today, so just let me remind you that there will be 3 more lectures starting next week, where then we do right in the focus on Africa as a whole. And of course, there will also be a Q&A session at the end of each of these. And so therefore, please, if you have the time, join us for the 3 lectures in the coming week. You find all the information about this on the website of the Institute of Tourism, which I also take the opportunity to thank again for their unwavering support in our work, both on practical terms and also on other terms. And also you can find, of course, information also on our own website, which is meaningfultourismcenter.org. So with this, yes, so thank you, everybody. And so Charlotte Koch from London just also added that there are some good examples in the agriculture sector. I know she has been working in this field. So yes, I think also in Kenya, of course, we have already some good examples. What we need to do is to make this into a mainstream movement so that people understand more and more how they can get benefits and satisfaction out of that. So thank you again. Thank you, Brigitte. And thank you for bringing also Angela as a speaker. And with that, I think we conclude for today. So tomorrow we will talk about Tanzania and Zanzibar. And after that, we will also talk about Cameroon and about, on Friday, we will talk about Zimbabwe. So, and we will have each time our local partner and some local expert. So if you have time, join us same time in the coming days. And then in the coming 3 weeks, every week we will have a more detailed lecture. And also then you will learn more about what you only saw in slides today about how you can use carbon credit trading to actually earn money from behaving in a sustainable way. With this, Reza Soltani from Institute of Tourism, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you everybody for spending the time and for asking very meaningful questions. And with that, from Kathmandu, Nepal, I say Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Goodbye.